The darkness of the forest fell as Kat and Jacob drove down the driveway to Allison's grandmother's cabin, the dampness seeping through the drooping branches, creating an atmosphere thick with mystery and suspicion. The moss-covered house, nestled among the ancient oaks, felt like a forgotten existence, but its very age suggested that it had witnessed many buried stories. Kat stepped inside, her hands tracing the cold, dusty surfaces, until she found a diary wrapped in an old handkerchief that smelled faintly of lavender. It was not a mere keepsake, but a Pandora's box of secrets that could change the fate of all the families involved. The yellowing pages opened onto a world of strange notes, scratched out names and addresses, notes about rehearsals and stage costumes, an old photograph of a woman singing with the caption, "Articu allowed my grandmother." In that moment, Kat felt a chill run down her spine, as if the diary pages were not just a personal account, but also a generational acknowledgement. Who was Allison's grandmother? And why was the song associated with Barbara appearing in the space that once belonged to Allison? These questions were not simply directed at the admiration of a fan, but also suggested that Allison had some blood connection to Barbara, perhaps a blood relative, blurring the lines between genealogy and legacy as Kat turned the pages. Each line revealed a haunting musical legacy of the Dupree family, where Barbara appeared as both a gentle artist and a scheming woman, manipulating those around her. It was this duality that made all her descendants live in doubt about what they had inherited, not only in terms of material assets but also in terms of spiritual legacy and lasting psychological wounds. Jacob sees Kat's eyes flash with tension because she understands that this diary is a fragile piece of evidence. It could save Allison by proving that she is the product of a buried truth, but it could also condemn Allison in the court of public opinion, making her the dangerous heir to Barbara's bloodline, a symbol that has always been divisive. Kat faces the question of whether to make public what they have found or to keep it to herself to protect Allison from a social prejudice that could swallow her whole life. Meanwhile, in another space, Leslie and Peaches sit together with a glass of wine, bitterness and past pain mingling in every drop. It is when, drunk enough to let down all defenses, Peaches confesses to a crime that had been buried deep in the hospital's secrets for years. She switched babies. Eva is not Leslie's biological child, and the shocking truth is that Allison is her biological daughter. This revelation is like a knife cutting deep into Leslie's consciousness, who has held Eva like flesh and blood for years, now facing the possibility that everything she knows about motherhood is a lie. But Peaches doesn't stop there. The question of Eva's true parents immediately arises. Could it be that Nicole and Ted were the ones who lost their children in the swap? If Eva is their lost child, then the truth is even more terrible when Kat and Eva could be twins, two souls who once clashed, confronted, fought fiercely, now discovered to be blood-related. What will happen when they have to look back at their entire relationship that was once heavy in the new light of blood? Peach's story admits that it is not just a mistake of youth or an impulse, but may be the result of a revenge plan that has lasted for many years. But the question is, who is she revenged on? If Peaches targeted Leslie, it was retaliation for the many times Leslie had scorned her, the times she had been excluded from power. If Nicole was targeted, it was a stab in the heart of a woman who had lost everything by trusting the wrong person. And if Ted was targeted, the swap could have been an attempt to destroy the entire political future of a man who thought he controlled his own destiny. This ambiguity makes Peaches' crime so haunting because it is not just the story of a swapped child, but of a generation whose fates were swapped in service of a conspiracy that was never publicly acknowledged. Leslie was in shock, because if Allison was really her biological daughter, all the stories about the Barber family's inheritance would change fundamentally. Wealth, power, status, everything she had believed she had built on Eva would now be a sandcastle that could be destroyed by a single wave of truth. But the law and public opinion do not operate on simple bloodlines. What was surrounding Allison was not the question of whose child she was, but the accusations that she had kidnapped or even injured others. Leslie was forced into a difficult position. Would she dare to step into the light, admit that Allison was her biological daughter to protect and stand up against public opinion, or would she continue to protect Eva as her biological daughter to maintain her identity and keep her ownership of the property? This choice would not only shape her own destiny, but also shape future generations, where each child would carry a psychological wound that they did not cause. The moss-covered house remains dark, but the secrets that have just been revealed have shaken the very foundations of the family. Kat and Jacob hold a diary that could rewrite history, while Leslie and Peaches have opened the door to a crime that cannot be closed. The truth about Allison, Eva, Kat, and Barbara's legacy is no longer a family story, but a web of lies, revenge, and power that spans generations. And in this world, any truth revealed can be a double-edged sword, cutting or saving, but certainly not leaving anyone intact when the drama ends. The cabin is slowly sinking into darkness as night falls, but the diary pages Kat finds begin to rewrite the entire definition of the connection between past and present, like a secret bloodline flowing through generations. Kat realizes the fragility of the value of evidence, because the diary may be the only key to proving that Allison is not simply someone obsessed with Barbara, but a living witness to a hidden legacy. Jacob ponders by the window, his eyes looking out into the woods as if waiting for an answer from the darkness. He knows that if the diary is released incorrectly, Allison could be thrust into the public eye, becoming a symbol of a dangerous bloodline instead of being seen as a victim of a cruel exchange. Each blurred line on the paper becomes a double-edged sword, both bringing salvation and destroying everything. In another space, Leslie sat silently in front of a glass of still-flowing wine, feeling an irreparable rift in her heart. Peach's confession echoed like a funeral bell, signaling the death of what she had believed in. Eva, the child she had held in her arms, once protected from all criticism, might not be her own flesh and blood. Leslie's heart was heavy as she faced the truth that Allison, whom she had always looked at with suspicion, even as an enemy, might actually be her own child. This shock went beyond maternal love and also extended to questions of inheritance. If Allison really had Barbara's blood, then the right to inherit the musical legacy, fortune, and fame would belong to her, not Eva. But Leslie understood that the law and society were not only concerned with bloodline. Allison was surrounded by accusations of kidnapping, even assault, and public opinion tended to crush those considered a danger. Peaches looked at Leslie with a tired but triumphant look, as if revealing this secret was a deliberate step in a larger game. Was she confessing to atone for her sins, or was she actually continuing to manipulate Leslie into a new maze of lies? The question of motive puzzled Leslie. If Peaches wanted revenge on Leslie, this was the cruelest way: to rob her of her true motherhood, then give it back at a time when the truth would only bring pain. If the target was Nicole, then the wrong child had destroyed her family in the first place. If it was a blow to Ted, it could turn his entire political base into a joke. As someone who had talked about family and morality, lived for years in a false truth, in that moment, Leslie had to choose. If she admitted Allison was her daughter, she would have to face public opinion, the law, and her own broken heart as she looked at Eva in a different light. But if she continued to keep Eva as her own, Leslie would preserve her identity, her fortune, and the false stability she had built. Both paths were deep, and each choice could lead to destruction. Meanwhile, in the woods, Kat and Jacob sat together, the diary between them like a living thing, radiating a heavy energy. Kat knew that they had to find a way to strategically reveal this truth, or it would become evidence against Allison herself. The notes about rehearsals, about stage costumes, about the photo of the woman singing with the words, "Articu allowed my grandmother," were not just memories of an individual, but a link between Barbara and Allison. Kat feels as if Barbara is still manipulating the present from the shadows, a woman who was once gentle with the public but was hard-hearted in the way she shaped her family, that I in parallel with these thoughts. Eva still lives carefree in the belief that she is the center of the inheritance, unaware that under her feet is a thin layer of ice that can break at any moment. If the truth about her identity is made public, the relationship between her and Kat will no longer be just a rivalry, but a tragedy of two twin sisters who fought without knowing that they shared the same blood. How will Kat, who has suffered many shocks in her life, react when she learns that her former rival is now her other half? The truth can unite them in love, or push them into an even more fierce battle because of the feeling of betrayal by fate. Unanswered questions pile up, and every character is at a fateful crossroads. Kat and Jacob hold secrets that could unravel or destroy. Leslie must choose between motherhood and identity. Peaches uncovers the truth but keeps her motives hidden. Nicole and Ted may be about to face their lost child, and Eva and Kat prepare to face the unthinkable possibility that they are sisters. In a world where power, love, and truth are always intertwined, there is no path to peace. Every decision sets off a chain of irreversible consequences, and Barbara's legacy, in all its beauty and darkness, continues to haunt each of them, forcing them to face choices that will shape their futures as the secrets are revealed. Nicole is the first to feel the weight of the truth coming down. For years, she has lived in the haunting memory of a mother who has lost a child, the unexplained voids that have scarred her soul. Eva's appearance in the new vortex of tragedy reawakens that pain, but now it is no longer the pain of a vague loss but a clear truth. Eva may be the lost child she let slip from her arms at the very beginning of her life. Nicole is both shaken and angry, because the sacred motherly love has been torn into a cruel joke. But at the same time, she also feels a strong current of connection, a motherly intuition that makes her want to open her arms to protect Eva. Regardless of the storms that will follow, Ted takes the truth differently. As a man who had built his career on morality, family, and public values, he knew the news would be devastating. If Eva was indeed his biological daughter, then all those years of watching other children grow up under the Dupree roof were not just a loss, but a hidden humiliation. But Ted's anger was directed not only at Peaches, the switcheroo, but also at himself, because he understood that his political ambitions and past struggles may have indirectly opened the door for the crime to happen. He longed to reclaim Eva as his own flesh and blood, but also feared that the truth would destroy everything he had built in the political arena. The question echoed in Ted's mind: was a brutal truth worth more than a lie that brought stability? Eva was once again in a state of profound conflict. All her life, she believed she was Leslie's daughter, believed that Dupree blood ran through her veins, believed that her place in Barbara's legacy was a given. Now, as the truth dawns that she may not belong to the family she once considered her roots, Eva feels torn in two. Part of her is angry, thinking that everyone is making up stories to take away her place. But the other part cannot deny the vague fragments of memories, the feelings of loss that she has never named since childhood. If Nicole and Ted are really her biological parents, then all the rivalry, all the hatred towards Kat is just a cruel arrangement of fate. Eva must face the painful question: who is she when every identity she once believed in collapses? Kat stands at a different crossroads. She has had a tense relationship with Eva. The two have encountered each other as enemies, pushed each other into conflicts with no way out. Now that Kat knows Eva may be her long-lost twin, her entire worldview is turned upside down. She's not just facing a rival, she's facing a part of herself she never knew existed. Kat's emotions are a maelstrom: sympathy for sharing blood, anger for being placed on opposite sides for so many years, and fear for a future where they'll have to learn to exist not as enemies, but as sisters. But is Kat strong enough to accept this connection, or will she let her hatred turn the blood bond into a new tragedy? The truth about the connection between Nicole, Ted, Eva, and Kat is more than just a genealogical revelation. It's a time bomb placed at the heart of the Dupree family. It forces each of them to confront questions they were never ready to answer. Can a mother's love survive years of theft? Can a father and son's bond be rebuilt on a foundation of lies? And can a sisterhood survive what began as hatred? The answers will not only shape each individual's fate, but will determine whether the family will collapse completely or find a way to rise from the ashes.